everybody, it's Dan. Hope you're well today. Welcome to the Property Cashflow Show. We're going to talk about deal sourcing today. It's not something we've talked a lot about recently. We're doing videos and that kind of thing, but we've not been live about it. And I just wanted to cover deal sourcing specifically. Because as we're heading towards Christmas, and in particular in the new year, when people are getting their credit cards, a lot of people kind of have this one last good time before they lose their house, basically. And so there's an opportunity for you to go in and buy that property below market value, or to buy it with some sort of discount of some kind. Or it might be that you can actually go and help these people and go and, not necessarily give them financial advice, because you're not allowed to do that, of course, but just give them some help. Like sometimes we don't even buy a deal because actually the guy just didn't realise that he could have solved his problems in different ways, and he just needs introducing to somebody else, like a debt advisor, to help him through that. And it's not always appropriate to buy a house below market value. And, from an ethical point of view, I think that stuff's really important. But also, conversely, you're also going to meet some people where they're so screwed. Like, there's just not a lot they can do at all. And actually, them selling the house, paying down the debts, moving into rented accommodation, having got free of all this kryptonite around the neck that's pulling them down, that's actually the best thing for them. Or sometimes it's, they've been left a house and they don't know what to do with it, and it's just sat there empty, and they haven't to pay council tax. Sometimes it's 2 times the amount of council tax, and it might be getting broken into, and it's cold as well because it's winter, right? So now they have to leave the heating on, and then energy bills. And so there's all sorts of different reasons as to why somebody might need to sell. And your job as a deal sourcer is, 1, to find those sort of people, and 2, to step in and have a conversation with them, at least to find out what their situation is and to see if you can actually help them. And if you can help them, wonderful. Sometimes that means helping them sell the house, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it means something else. Sometimes it might mean doing a lease option on it. So a lease option is where you agree, the $100,000 house, I'll give you 110 for it in 5 years time, but in the meantime I want to rent it. Or it might be a rent to rent, where you just go, I don't want to buy it, but I'm going to rent it from you for the next 5 to 7 years. How would that sound, giving you a guaranteed rent? So your job then is to go and actually find them. So deal sourcing really is just about having 2 customers, really. Your first customer is the person who needs to sell their house, or maybe they think they need to sell their house, but they're not quite sure, and so they need to have a conversation with somebody who can actually help them. So, as I just said, sometimes selling the house isn't the best option for them. Sometimes renting it to somebody that they can trust over a long period of time. And also, not everybody wants to use letting agencies. I mean, I used to own a lettings agency, and do I trust letting agents in 2023? No, is the answer to that. Why would I trust a letting agent? I just don't trust them. Sorry, letting agents, just the way that it is. But if I don't trust them, other people don't trust them as well. So maybe you can get that long-term let. So deal sourcing is finding someone who's got a property problem, and then finding somebody else who may be able to buy that property, and you being the person in the middle, putting these 2 people together. But this person in the middle, which is you should be negotiating, okay, what's your situation, Mr. Homeowner? What's going on? Why are you thinking about selling? What other options are there? How much do you owe on the house? How much the house is worth? What loans have you got? Because really, this should end up with a win-win situation. In fact, it's a win-win-win, because you also want to win by either finding a sourcing fee, a couple of grand or whatever that's going to be, or maybe you're just going to go out and rent their property from them for the next 7 years, guarantee their rent, and then you might be running serviced accommodation. And you might even be thinking, well, if I'm going to run serviced accommodation, why does this person not want to run serviced accommodation? Who knows, is the honest answer. That's why your job should be to get into a conversation with these people who have a property problem and solve that property problem in whatever way that is going to be beneficial to them, predominantly to them, right? You're not doing this just to go out and make money for yourself. I was at a sourcing event, and the guy was teaching from the front, and he was saying, oh yeah, a couple of days before we get to exchange, or the day of exchange, I go, oh no, I need another 10 grand off. And I'm like, I'm sat there and I'm in the audience, and I whispered to my mate Dave. It turned out not to be a whisper because the guy heard me. But I whispered to my mate Dave, I said, you know what? This is why we don't sell properties to sources. It was highly unethical. What do you mean you knocked 10 grand? So you got 86-year-old Ethel who's selling a home because she's gone into an old folks home or whatever, and this guy, this wanker, comes in and knocks 10 grand off the day before completion when she's going into a home and she's forced to do it. That's not ethical. That's not how you run this business, and that's not how you do deal sourcing. And if you think that's who you're going to be as a deal sourcer, go do something else, because it's really, really unethical. Anyway, I whispered it to my mate Dave. That's why we don't sell to deal sourcers. And he's like, sorry, did you have something to add? And I'm like a little bit embarrassed because he heard me. And I went, oh, no, it's fine. He said, no, come on, share it with the group. So then I said, yeah, okay. I said, actually, this is why we don't sell to sourcers, because of this unethical behaviour. And then the guy was clearly embarrassed, started going on about his work for charity. Literally, he then spoke about his charity work. And I thought, what a wanker, you know. But the level of ethics here should be like primary. Your job here is to help the person who's got a property problem, not take advantage of them for your cash flow, right? If you're a good sourcer, you're not worried about cash flow because you've got cash flow coming through on all sorts of deals anyway, right? And if you're not a good sourcer, then you need to improve what you're doing, get on some training, learn how to sell, learn how to present, learn how to market. You need to really become a better sourcer and learn how to do that properly. So one of the questions, of course, that we get asked is, can you make good money? And the answer is yes. You know, we know people make a decent living, not just a decent living, they make a really good living from finding deals and making sure that those deals are good quality deals for helping the person selling the deal or selling the house. They're also finding these deals for investors. I'm just going to put, by the way, in the chat box, if you want to get into property deal sourcing, there's the property sourcing product that we've got for 27 quid. I'll just put that in the chat for you so you can have a look at that. But yeah, we know people making some decent money. And so let's talk about how much you can make per deal. And it can be anything, right? It depends on a deal. If it's a couple of million quid, you're going to make some decent whack, right? If it's $100 grand house, what are you going to make on that? Well, again, it depends on a deal. It depends on how desperate you are for your first deal as well. Is it your first deal or is it your 20th deal? And if it's your 20th deal, you'll probably be charging between 3 and 5 grand, depending on a deal, okay? If it's your first deal, hell, charge 50 quid. Get one in the bag. Get one done. Build the confidence, right? Because you get paid twice. We talk about this in the training. You get paid twice. You get paid first in experience, and then you get paid in cash. Everybody wants the cash. You get paid first in experience. Get your experience. Get one across the line. Get it under your belt, whatever terminology you want to use. Make your 50 quid or make £500. You don't have to make 5 grand on your first deal. Everybody thinks that you have to go out and do that, which is bonkers, I think. Go get one across the line. Make 50 quid. I'll buy you a coffee if you get me this deal. Done. Like, if this was my first deal, I would be doing that. If I was a professional NBA basketball player, I'm not coming out to score 25 points in my first game. I just want to get my first basket. That's all I want to do, right? And why do people make it so difficult? Why have these high expectations and then they never reach them? And then one of the problems is with property deal sourcing is that we get so many people buying the training course and then they buy a website, and then by the time the website comes around to next year for the renewal, and we're like, do you want to renew? And we go, oh no, I'm on to the next shiny penny. And this is the problem that we find a lot of people have. They try and make good money, they try and do all these deals and getting top dollar, then the deals fall through, or they can't find an investor because the amount that they're trying to charge the investor is far too high. They've got zero reputation, and yet they're trying to make a 5 grand on a sale. It's like, no, it's crazy. That's not how this stuff works. You've got to go out and find your first deal, get it sold, get it across the line, make £100, make 500 quid, make £1,000. That's what you've got to do. Once you're then onto your second, third, fourth, sixth, seventh deal, depending on the type of deal and how big it is and what the discount is or what the yield is or whatever the deal happens to be, okay? Then you can start raising your prices somewhat. But this is about you building confidence on you getting these deals across the line. And if you've never got a deal across the line, that is your primary focus. Not the £1,000 or the £2,000 or the £5,000 that you're charging. It's simply getting it across the line to get your first deal in. At that point, you can actually call yourself a property deal sourcer. Until you get your first deal across the line, you're just playing at it, right? You're an amateur. Amateurs are people who don't make money. You're an amateur, right? And that's fine to be an amateur because you're aspiring to get your first deal, to get your first sale, to get the first one across the line and get your first completion in. But until then, you're just playing at it. Sorry, folks, but, we want it warts and all. We want to be really honest about how difficult this industry is. So let's talk about that. Is property deal sourcing hard? Yes, it's very hard. Like, I know you go on courses, you go on these weekend courses and so on, but it is just really, really hard. And you go on the courses and it's all happy clappy and, well, you can make £5,000 here and £3,000 there and so on. Let me just get rid of that call. Who's calling me when I'm live? And so you get all these courses saying how easy it is. It's really not easy. It's really difficult, and you need to have a level of compliance as well, because there is property sourcing compliance. Let me just put the link in for the compliance as well, by the way, in the chat box, and then everybody's got it. Here we go. Let me stick that in there as well. So you do have to be compliant in order to even get started in this industry. I know some people go, oh, well, I'll be a co-sourcer. No, there's no such thing as co-sourcing. You have to be compliant. For HMRC, you have to be treated as an employee of that business if you're co-sourcing, right? And you can't just go, oh, I'll just be an employee. That's not how it works. You can't just decide to be an employee and then you're an employee. They want paychecks. They want proof that you're an employee, right? Have you got your pension in place as an employee of that business? No. Well, you're not an employee then. That's a legal requirement. To have employees, you've got to have this bloody pension thing in place. So is it difficult, just moving back to that? Yeah, it's really hard. What about finding deals? Is that hard? Yeah, of course it's hard. How many leaflet drops do you think you've got to drop? Well, I dropped 1,000 leaflets this month. Whoopie-doo. You ain't closing anything on 1,000 leaflets. You've got to drop 10, 20, 30,000 leaflets just to get your first deal across the line. And what about finding investors? Investors are everywhere, admittedly, but do they trust property sources, deal sources? Not really. Do they trust the deal? Do they think you're going to screw them at the back somehow? Yeah, they do. So you got to work on this. It's not easy. Is it doable? Hell yeah. Lots of people making very good money from being a property deal sourcer, but it is hard work. And we don't want to kind of pull the wool over people's eyes and go, yeah, it's a really easy industry to get into. It's not. You need compliance. It's really easy to get your first deal across the line. It's not. It's hard work, and it can take, a month, 3 months, 6 months, longer for you to get your first deal across the line. It's very, very difficult. And then let's talk about competition, because this is an interesting one, I think. Is there competition? Yes, there's lots of competition. Is the competition any good? No, it's dreadful, right? They are the second-hand car dealers. When you're on Auto Trader and there's a second-hand car and you go, yeah, is that Ford still available? And they answer the phone and they grunt at you, no, mate, it's gone, but I've got another one. Come on, dudes. Your quality of how you're answering the phone has to be better than that. And that is the level of competition that you're up against. Trust me on this. Phone up one of the adverts in the Yorkshire Evening Post for do you need to sell your house, or one of the leaflets. Phone them up and test them. See what they're like. See how bad they are. Like, if you think estate agents are bad, the thing I never get about estate agents is, I want to book a viewing to come and see this property. Oh, yeah, I can fit you in 2 weeks on Thursday. Dude, I've been in your office yesterday. You just sat playing, I don't know, solitaire. What do you mean 2 weeks on Thursday? Let me go see it today or tomorrow. I'm keen. I'm a buyer. I want to go see it, right? I mean, I don't know what it is with estate agents, but this is the level that a lot of property deal sources are operating at as well, right? Lack of professionalism is there. And yes, there is a lot of competition. Yes, there's a lot of newcomers. But as I said earlier, a lot of those newcomers, they're not in the industry in 12 months' time. Their website's expired because they don't want to renew it because they're on to the next shiny penny. So yes, whilst there is a lot of competition, a lot of newbies coming in, the old schoolers, they're few and far between because there's not a lot of old schoolers in this business because most of them give up after a year because it's hard work. When you get into your rhythm, when you start getting some deals across the line and you start to build confidence and knowing the path is different than walking the path. I think that's a line in Matrix from Morpheus to Neo. But it's true, right? It's very, very difficult. So the competition, because of its difficulty, they just kind of peter out and end up not doing anything. Anyway, that is a good introduction to being a deal sourcer, and I do hope you find that useful. That's me for today. We'll catch up with you in tomorrow's session, and I hope you're well. Have a good one. Take care.